5. The water droplet gathered speed again, and splashed onto the collar of the doctor's coat, which Perry held wrapped about her. The time rotor shuddered into life once more. Console lights flickered dimly on. "The other adjusts to compensate," concluded the doctor, his voice returning to its usual tone. A dull, solid thump reverberated through the TARDIS, like the distant sound of a lead slab hitting the ground. They had landed. Perry blinked and looked about her in puzzlement. Superficially, it seemed as though the power had flickered off for a second or two, then come on again. But somewhere deep inside, a sixth sense was insisting that the moment had actually lasted for years. She shook her head gingerly, hoping that everything would make sense again soon, and reminding herself that if she had wanted an ordinary life, she wouldn't be here. "Ah, good," said the doctor, as though everything was perfectly normal. He stood up and went over to the console, where he began to study the few scattered readings that were showing on the displays. Perry struggled upright within the enveloping folds of his borrowed coat and followed him, her bare feet slapping over the still wet floor. The doctor circled the console, studying the controls and cautiously adjusting settings. After a minute of this, Perry commented brightly, "I'm glad we've got some light in here again. Does this mean the rest of the power will be back online soon?" "Unfortunately not. This is just the last of the residual force field energy that has been reabsorbed into the system," the doctor replied, still circling busily. "So, what about the link with the Eye of Harmony?" "That's still broken." "Can't you fix it?" "Oddly enough," the doctor responded, with heavy sarcasm, "that is what I'm trying to do." He stood back from the controls and scratched his head for a moment, looking frankly perplexed. "However, the beam is not there to be locked onto." "I thought you said it could be picked up anywhere in time and space." "It can." "So?" "So, either this is somewhere outside the normal continuum, or else the beam is being blocked. I'm detecting some peculiar faint energy readings, but with the low power the receptor sensitivity is not what I would wish, so I can't make a detailed analysis." His brow furrowed in deep thought once more. "Things don't work too good without that beam, do they, Doctor?" Perry commented, disturbing his reverie. No. No, the link to the Eye of Harmony was the Time Lord discovery that made widespread time travel safe and controllable. It supplies not only power, but the equivalent of a fixed reference point, both physically and temporally, for calibration purposes. It allows a TARDIS to determine its location with tremendous precision. But have you any idea where we are now? I mean, we have landed somewhere, haven't we?" "Yes, we have definitely landed somewhere." "Well, don't keep it a state secret, Doctor." The doctor looked annoyed, unwilling to admit he was unsure of the facts. "Allowing for the interference with the systems we sustained, and the low power the navigation readings do indicate that we almost completed our planned journey." "How do you mean?" "We are in Rome, but only in the year 10 BC, approximately." "Well, at least that's somewhere, Doctor." "Yes, but that doesn't explain why I can't detect the Eye of Harmony link, or the origin of the trace energy field. Something is definitely wrong here," he concluded. Perry smiled wryly and shrugged as expressively as she could within the bulky coat. "So, what's new? I should have known better than to expect 2 trips in a row to work out okay." She appeared to have recovered her resolve. "Okay, let's get outside and take a look-see. It'll be nice to get into the light again." "I'm afraid there is no light outside," replied the doctor, turning on the main scanner. The screen came to life, but showed only blackness. "We appear to have materialized inside an enclosed space," Some sort of building, I assume. For the moment, however, it seems to be deserted. We're gonna need some flashlights, then. She peered around the gloomy interior. Could do with some more light in here while we're about it. The emergency lamps are behind the third roundel up on the left of the column beside the sea chest, the doctor informed her absently, returning to his examination of the control console. The roundel swung open to reveal deep shelves holding an antique oil lamp, 3 hurricane lamps, 2 miner's Davy lamps, 4 campers' gas-fueled lights, and several electric torches of more or less conventional appearance. Perry switched on one of the torches to test it. "Say, Doctor, I wish you'd have told me these were here earlier." "Hey, what's this?" Amongst the clutter, Perry had discovered a box containing what appeared to be a dozen fist-sized blobs of cloudy plastic jelly, which was soft and malleable to the touch. The doctor glanced over briefly. "Oh, yes, synthetic bioluminescence. Mold one in your hand for a minute." Perry worked one of the blobs, feeling it grow warm in her hand. Within moments, it started to glow with a pale green-tinted radiance. Perry was entranced by the effect, momentarily forgetting their situation. The blobs were slightly tacky, sticking to the wall, but peeling off again easily. A little experimentation revealed they could be shaped like modelling clay, and she quickly made a glowing circlet to wear on her head. She laughed. "See, Doctor? Very practical, needs no hands. Bet these would make great kids' toys as well." "They are children's toys, about 30 years on from your time. Now, if you have quite finished playing, we'll see what is outside, shall we?" "Wait for me? I've just got to find some clothes." Taking a torch and a couple of the glow blobs, which she planned to put up to illuminate the way, she splashed out into the corridor. "Do please try not to get my coat wet," the doctor called plaintively after her. "Doctor, anything that happens to this coat can only be an improvement." Perry was back in a few minutes, wearing a shirt, shorts, and practical stout ankle boots. She was carrying the doctor's coat with elaborate care to keep it clear of any splashes. The corridor was still awash, and she reflected that it would take a good deal of mop and bucket work to clean it up if they could not get the TARDIS's automatic maintenance systems powered up soon. She found the doctor was laboriously turning a crank handle inserted in a small socket beside the doors, which was slowly swinging open. Perry could only see blackness beyond. When they were wide enough, she handed him his coat and a torch. The doctor squeezed between the doors, and Perry followed close behind. The air outside was cool and still and slightly musty. It was totally silent, except for the sound of their own movements, and the scrape of their boots on the stone floor seemed harsh and intrusive. Perry shivered, feeling as though their presence was resented in some way. She swung her torch around, probing the darkness with its beam. The TARDIS seemed to have materialized inside a spacious chamber, built of close-fitting stonework, which she estimated to be perhaps 4 yards high by 10 long and 5 wide. The dancing circle of her torch beam revealed flashes of colour. A broad frieze was painted on the walls between knee and head height, comprised of figure groups in Roman and Egyptian dress set in various tableaux. Between them were blocks of text in Latin and Greek, interspersed with some Egyptian hieroglyphs. In the middle of one of the chamber's long walls was a massive double door, but without any sign of a handle. Was that the only door? She wondered, swinging her torch around. Yike! Her involuntary exclamation of surprise echoed around the chamber. Beside a second doorway stood the silent guardian figure of a woman in a golden dress, carrying a rod and mace. At her yell, the doctor's torch had also turned to illuminate the motionless figure. "What beautiful workmanship!" he observed, with infuriating composure. His torch beam revealed a second figure, seemingly identical to the first, on the other side of the doorway. Perry recovered herself. "Gee, Doctor, how was I supposed to know it was a statue? It looks so real. It's the atmosphere in here. This place is as spooky as a—" "Tomb?" suggested the doctor. "Perhaps that is because it is a tomb." "Huh?" "At least the antechamber of a tomb," he explained, playing his torch over the frieze as he circled the chamber, examining the pictures and text intently. "This appears to be a record of the life and triumphs of its occupant." "Oh, and who's that?" "Apparently, Cleopatra, Queen of the Nile." "Hey, Cleopatra's own tomb?" Perry said, slightly awed, unconsciously lowering her voice to a respectful whisper. "And these are representations of the lady herself," said the doctor, indicating the twin statues, "symbolically guarding the entrance to the inner chambers and her own last resting place." They were beautifully carved and black lacquered, with the costume and headdress being picked out in gilt. The two doors they guarded were intricately patterned and inlaid. Tied between the large handle of each door was a heavy twisted rope fused into place with wax and clay seals. Perry shivered slightly. "Some place for us to land, isn't it? But I didn't know Cleopatra was buried in Rome." "She wasn't," the doctor replied. In the reflected torchlight, Perry saw his features had taken on an unusually grim set. "Look at this next wall beside the door." The pictures portrayed a series of celebrations and grand processions. It was a summary of the life and triumphs of Cleopatra and her consort. The pictorial style of the work was a composite of the symbolic and naturalistic, and Perry found some of the distortions of perspective and relative sizes of people according to rank confusing. One factor, though, soon became abundantly clear. "Some of these more recent things never happened in my past, did they, Doctor?" she said hesitantly. "No, they didn't. Look at the dates of these events." They've got some decimal numerals as well as Roman. That's not right. What's AUC mean?" "Roman dating, ab urbe condita, from the foundation of the city. In your terms, the traditional date of the foundation of Rome was 753 BC. Perry was working her way along the wall, adjusting dates in her mind. "Hey, what's this big sea battle in a 31 BC? Are these meant to be steamships?" "Unfortunately, I think they are." 31 BC seems familiar. The decisive sea battle at Actium. The forces of Antony and Cleopatra lost. By the next year they were both dead, and Octavian was on his way to becoming Emperor Augustus. "Not here, though," Perry continued along the frieze. "Look, in 725 AUC, 29 BC, they seem to have changed the calendar." "So they have," confirmed the doctor. "Dominion Year 1, it says. Here's Antony's funeral, I guess, in 13 DY, continued Perry, and Cleopatra's in 15 DY, and there it ends." She turned away from the wall, her expression deeply troubled. "Doctor, just where are we?"